the king of Ceylon, was able by magic art to take his soul out of his body and leave it in a box at home while he went to the wars. Thus he was invulnerable in battle. When he was about to give battle to Rama, he deposited his soul with a hermit called Fire Eye, who was to keep it safe for him. So in the fight, Rama was astounded to see that his arrows struck the king without wounding him. But one of Rama's allies, knowing the secret of the king's invulnerability, transformed himself by magic into the likeness of the king, and going to the hermit, asked back his soul. On receiving it, he soared up into the air and flew to Rama, brandishing the box and squeezing it so hard that all the breath left the king of Ceylon's body, and he died. In a Bengali story, a prince going into a far country planted with his own hands a tree in the courtyard of his father's palace, and said to his parents, "This tree is my life. When you see the tree green and fresh, then know that it is well with me. When you see the tree fade in some parts, then know that I am in an ill case. And when you see the whole tree fade, then know that I am dead and gone." In another Indian tale, a prince, setting forth on his travels, left behind him a barley plant, with instructions that it should be carefully tended and watched. For if it flourished, he would be alive and well; but if it drooped, then some mischance was about to happen to him. And so it fell out. For the prince was beheaded, and as his head rolled off, the barley plant snapped in two, and the ear of barley fell to the ground. In Greek tales, ancient and modern, the idea of an external soul is not uncommon. When Meleager was 7 days old, the Fates appeared to his mother, and told her that Meleager would die when the brand which was blazing on the hearth had burned down. So his mother snatched the brand from the fire and kept it in a box. But in after years, being enraged at her son for slaying her brothers, she burnt the brand in the fire, and Meleager expired in agonies, as if flames were preying on his vitals. Again, Nisus, king of Megara, had a purple or golden hair on the middle of his head, and it was fated that whenever the hair was pulled out, the king should die. When Megara was besieged by the Cretans, the king's daughter Scylla fell in love with Minos, their king, and pulled out the fatal hair from her father's head. So he died. In a modern Greek folk tale, a man's strength lies in 3 golden hairs on his head. When his mother pulls them out, he grows weak and timid, and is slain by his enemies. In another modern Greek story, the life of an enchanter is bound up with 3 doves which are in the belly of a wild boar. When the first dove is killed, the magician grows sick. When the second is killed, he grows very sick, and when the third is killed, he dies. In another Greek story of the same sort, an ogre's strength is in 3 singing birds which are in a wild boar. The hero kills 2 of the birds, and then, coming to the ogre's house, finds him lying on the ground in great pain. He shows the 3rd bird to the ogre, who begs that the hero will either let it fly away or give it to him to eat. But the hero wrings the bird's neck, and the ogre dies on the spot. In a modern Roman version of Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp, the magician tells the princess, whom he holds captive in a floating rock in mid-ocean, that he will never die. The princess reports this to the prince, her husband, who has come to rescue her. The prince replies, "It is impossible but that there should be some one thing or other that is fatal to him. Ask him what that one fatal thing is." So the princess asked the magician, and he told her that in the wood was a hydra with 7 heads. In the middle head of the hydra was a leveret. In the head of the leveret was a bird. In the bird's head was a precious stone, and if this stone were put under his pillow, he would die. The prince procured the stone, and the princess laid it under the magician's pillow. No sooner did the enchanter lay his head on the pillow than he gave 3 terrible yells, turned himself round and round 3 times, and died. Stories of the same sort are current among Slavonic peoples. Thus a Russian story tells how a warlock called Koschei the Deathless carried off a princess and kept her prisoner in his golden castle. However, a prince made up to her one day as she was walking alone and disconsolate in the castle garden, and cheered by the prospect of escaping with him, she went to the warlock and coaxed him with false and flattering words, saying, "My dearest friend, tell me, I pray you, will you never die?" "Certainly not," says he. "Well," says she, "and where is your death? Is it in your dwelling?" "To be sure it is," says he. "It is in the broom under the threshold." Thereupon the princess seized the broom and threw it on the fire. But although the broom burned, the deathless Koschei remained alive; indeed, not so much as a hair of him was singed. Balked in her first attempt, the artful hussy pouted and said, "You do not love me true, for you have not told me where your death is. Yet I am not angry, but love you with all my heart." With these fawning words she besought the warlock to tell her truly where his death was. So he laughed and said, "Why do you wish to know? Surely then, out of love I will tell you where it lies. In a certain field there stand 3 green oaks, and under the roots of the largest oak is a worm, and if ever this worm is found and crushed, that instant I shall die." When the princess heard these words, she went straight to her lover and told him all. And he searched till he found the oaks and dug up the worm and crushed it. Then he hurried to the warlock's castle, but only to learn from the princess that the warlock was still alive. Then she fell to wheedling and coaxing Koschei once more, and this time, overcome by her wiles, he opened his heart and told her the truth. "My death," said he, "is far from here and hard to find, on the wide ocean. In that sea is an island, and on the island there grows a green oak, and beneath the oak is an iron chest, and in the chest is a small basket, and in the basket is a hare, and in the hare is a duck, and in the duck is an egg, and he who finds the egg and breaks it kills me at the same time." The prince naturally procured the fateful egg, and with it in his hands he confronted the deathless warlock. The monster would have killed him, but the prince began to squeeze the egg. At that the warlock shrieked with pain, and turning to the false princess, who stood by smirking and smiling, "Was it not out of love for you," said he, "that I told you where my death was? And is this the return you make to me?" With that he grabbed at his sword, which hung from a peg on the wall, but before he could reach it, the prince had crushed the egg, and sure enough the deathless warlock found his death at the same moment. In one of the descriptions of Koschei's death, he is said to be killed by a blow on the forehead inflicted by the mysterious egg, that last link in the magic chain by which his life is darkly bound. In another version of the same story, but told of a snake, the fatal blow is struck by a small stone found in the yolk of an egg, which is inside a duck, which is inside a hare, which is inside a stone, which is on an island. Amongst peoples of the Teutonic stock, stories of the external soul are not wanting. In a tale told by the Saxons of Transylvania, it is said that a young man shot at a witch again and again. The bullets went clean through her, but did her no harm, and she only laughed and mocked at him. "Silly earthworm," she cried, "shoot as much as you like, it does me no harm. For know that my life resides not in me, but far, far away. In a mountain is a pond, On the pond swims a duck.